your guy you picked first round, Bouknight, you say he's a lost cause now. You didn't give him a chance, so they didn't toe his mind up, so he can't play no more.
The perfect NBA prototypes who flamed out anyway. Today's feature looks at a group of players who checked every box the NBA claims to value: size, length, smooth skill, the frame of a future star, yet still couldn't turn that prototype into the career expected. In some cases, far from it. These guys were built how the modern wing is supposed to look, drafted with belief and given opportunities that suggested their paths were already paved. But once the league pressure kicked in, the gap between looking the part and playing the part became impossible to hide. This isn't about busts with no talent. It's about players who had everything on paper, flashes that teased the future, and still watched the league move on anyway. Cam Reddish was supposed to be the kind of long, smooth, positionless scorer every front office covets. At 6'8" with guard skills, a calm handle, effortless shooting mechanics, and the defensive range to guard 3 positions, he fit the modern NBA mold better than most players in his draft class. Coming out of Duke, he carried that rare blend of star projection and mystery, someone whose best flashes made you think he could become a lead option if everything aligned. But the further he got into his NBA journey, the more clear it became that his gifts never translated consistently enough to justify the patience teams invested in him. Reddish's biggest problem was never talent, it was impact. He looked like a bucket, but didn't get buckets efficiently. He looked like a defender, but didn't defend with urgency or awareness. He had the frame of a switchable wing, but played as if he was waiting for the game to slow down just for him. And because he wasn't dominant in any one area, coaches struggled to find a role for him. Too streaky to be trusted as a shooter, too passive to be featured as a scorer, too inconsistent to anchor a defensive assignment. The tools were all there, none were sharpened enough to become a signature skill. Atlanta gave him minutes, shots, and freedom early, but his habits kept him on the bubble of the rotation. New York hoped a change of scenery could push him toward aggressiveness he always seemed right on the edge of showing. Instead, the same issues resurfaced. Long stretches where he drifted, short bursts where he looked like a future star, then another reset. Portland offered the next fresh start, then the Lakers, and each stop brought the same result: a belief in his upside, followed by the reality that upside will only take you so far without consistency, urgency, or reliability. What made Reddish so frustrating wasn't failure, it was the constant feeling that he should have been much better than the box score told you. Players with his physical profile rarely move backwards in the league, but Reddish became one of the biggest reminders that looking like the future of the position isn't the same as carving out a real role in a league that doesn't wait on potential forever. His game always felt one step away from clicking, yet year after year, that step never came. James Bouknight entered the NBA looking like a modern scoring guard built in a lab. 6'5", explosive first step, fluid athleticism, quick twitch burst, and a creative off-the-dribble scoring package that made him one of the most intriguing shot makers in his class. He had the form, the confidence, the 3-level scoring flashes, and the kind of aggressive mentality that usually translate when the spacing widens and the game opens up. Draft analysts viewed him as a microwave bucket who could eventually become a high-level scorer. Instead, his career unraveled so fast it barely had time to start. Bouknight's skill wasn't the issue, decision-making was. He played with tunnel vision, often dribbling himself into trouble and relying on difficult shots he hit in college but rarely connected on in the NBA. What felt like fearlessness in highlight tapes looked more like recklessness in real games. His shot selection was erratic, his reads were late, and he never developed the pace or discipline to operate within an NBA offense. Charlotte gave him chances early, but every opportunity seemed to reinforce the same problem. He was trying to score like a star without proving he could function like a role player first, and when the game didn't slow down for him, frustration took over. Bouknight's body language worsened, he floated through possessions, and coaching staffs began to question his feel for the game altogether. Combine that with his lack of defensive engagement, late rotations, slow closeouts, inconsistent effort, and it became difficult to justify keeping him on the floor even when his scoring flashes appeared. The tools were undeniable, but the discipline to turn them into productive minutes never surfaced. Then off-court issues hit. Multiple legal problems, including a DUI incident involving a firearm, shifted the narrative from raw scorer who needs development to risky prospect with questionable focus. For a young player already struggling to find traction, those headlines accelerated his slide. Charlotte eventually moved on. Other teams weren't eager to take a fly on someone whose talent came with more questions than answers. Bouknight became a reminder that the NBA isn't just about talent and tools, it's about habits, maturity, and adaptability. He looked like the perfect scoring guard prototype, but translation requires more than measurables and highlights. It requires understanding the game, embracing structure, and proving you can be trusted. Bouknight never reached that point, and the league moved on before his potential ever became reality. Josh Jackson was built like the prototype every NBA team dreams about. 6'8", long, explosive, aggressive, and able to defend multiple positions with real force. At Kansas, he looked like a future two-way star, an elite transition scorer, high motor competitor, an emotional spark whose versatility fit perfectly with the direction of the modern wing. Scouts believed if his jumper ever stabilized, he could become a franchise cornerstone. But once he reached the NBA, the gaps in his polish became too central to overlook. Jackson's biggest hurdle wasn't effort, it was refinement. His jumper never settled into anything reliable, with mechanics that changed release to release. Defenses stopped respecting him outside the paint, shrinking his driving lanes and turning his straight-line attacks into predictable collisions. His handle wasn't tight enough to consistently beat set defenses, and because he wasn't a dependable shooter or playmaker, his scoring became tied to transitions, cuts, and broken plays. In a league built on spacing, timing, and decision-making, he didn't develop quickly enough to survive on athleticism alone. Defensively, he had the tools to be special, but the focus came and went. He gambled too often, lost track of assignments, and leaned on recovery speed instead of discipline. Coaches loved the energy he brought, yet struggled to trust him to stay locked in possession to possession. As his offensive flaws became louder, those defensive lapses carried more weight. Then came the off-court problems. Legal issues, team rule violations, and maturity concerns created a cloud around a player Phoenix thought would anchor their rebuild. Once he was traded, Memphis tried to rehabilitate him through the G League, where he briefly flashed the awareness and urgency he lacked before. But even after fighting his way back onto an NBA roster, the consistency never held. Detroit offered another opening, yet the same patterns resurfaced. Streaky scoring, limited spacing, and decision-making that never matched his physical gifts. Jackson didn't flame out because he lacked talent. He flamed out because the areas he needed to improve, shooting, discipline, processing the game, were the areas that determine longevity for modern wings. He had the mold, the tools, and the pedigree, but without the refinement to bring them together, the league moved forward without him. All in all, these stories show how misleading the idea of the perfect NBA prototype can be. Cam Reddish, James Bouknight, and Josh Jackson each had the frame, skill flashes, and projected upside that teams usually bet big on, yet none of them found the clarity, consistency, or discipline needed to turn those tools into a reliable NBA identity. Their failures weren't about lacking talent, they were about a league demanding more than highlights, measurables, and potential. It demands habits, decision-making, maturity, and a commitment to evolving when the early hype fades. Each of these players had stretches where you could still see the star they were once projected to be, which is what makes their trajectories stand out. They didn't quietly wash out, they teased greatness before unraveling in different ways. And while their careers didn't match expectation, their journeys also serve as a reminder for young players watching. Talent can open the door, but only development and discipline keep you there. In today's NBA, the prototype is just a starting point, never the promise. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.